Condensed milk, new era in milk production. The railroads made possible the expansion of a second important industry in Southeast, the dairy industry. By 1855, Putnam County was supplying 10% of New York City's milk. At that time, dairy products were shipped in unsanitary oak barrels, often causing the milk to spoil. In 1856, inventor Gale Borden had finally received a patent for condensing milk, which was to make his fortune. In 1863, he built a modern and efficient condensery in Southeast that surpassed his other two plants. The factory was located on the east branch of the Croton River, near the present-day juncture of routes 6 and 22. Demand for condensed milk was high during this time due to the Civil War, and Borden began to see an immediate profit from his factory. At its height of operations, the Borden plant employed about 100 people, and over 200 farms supplied the milk. Each morning, the farmers delivered their milk to the factory where it was carefully tested. After passing inspection, the milk was poured into huge vacuum pans where most of the water was boiled off at a low heat. The milk was then fed to a room where dozens of women filled the milk cans and sealed them with solder.
The good farmers arrived at the plant earliest. They had their milk cooled and ready for Borden's. Borden's was a 6-day operation. They did not operate on Sunday. So that on Saturday night, you brought in the production of a day and a half milk. And by the same token, on Monday morning, you brought in a day and a half accumulation for that extra day there was no delivery on Sunday. So you had to have ice to cool that milk and to keep it properly. There was inspection. The Borden's people inspected you twice yearly. The Department of Health came around yearly on top of that. So it kept the farmers pretty much in line.
The milk factory flourished for 2 generations. Gale Borden and his son John became benefactors of the town of Southeast. Unfortunately, by the turn of the century, much of the best dairy farmland was flooded by the reservoirs built for the Croton Reservoir System. The Borden Company had also built newer and more efficient factories in other cities. Milk production dropped in Southeast, and the condensery closed in the early 1920s. Most of it was later destroyed in a mysterious fire, although the remains of the dam, part of the building, and the turbine which powered the plant's machinery can still be seen today. Water, water everywhere, the Croton Reservoirs. By the early 19th century, New York City was desperate for a source of fresh, clean water. Polluted water was causing many cholera outbreaks. In addition, the water supply was insufficient to help battle the many fires that ravaged New York City. In 1837, New York City began construction of a dam 6 miles upstream from where the Croton River enters into the Hudson River. The 400-acre reservoir created by this dam was supposed to meet New York City's need for centuries. However, it was soon found to be insufficient to satisfy the demands of the city's increasing population. Eventually, 11 dams and reservoirs were built on the Croton River, 4 of them in Southeast. These water systems would leave an indelible mark on the town economy and landscape. Much of the best farmland was flooded, and many properties were condemned in order to protect the purity of the watershed. Many homes, industries, and even whole communities were either moved or flooded. The work was carried out by thousands of immigrant Irish and Italian stonemasons. Their skill helped transform engineering structures into works of art. Today, the Croton Reservoir System supplies only 10% of New York City's water, And while the vistas created by the reservoirs have provided picturesque spots for leisure time activities throughout the years, much of the history of the area lies beneath their serene waters. The history of the town of Southeast is indeed rich and full. And while there may be few visible traces of the town's past, farm and dairy industries, the cradle of the American circus, iron mining, a transportation hub for 2 major railroads, and the extensive Croton Reservoir system, this history can still be explored at the Southeast Museum.